Okay, we're up to Daf Kuf Mem Kuf Zayin Kuf Samich Zayin excuse me, Kuf Zayin Ches Amid Beis. That's 6 lines from the bottom. Okay, guys, not the easiest Daf. Tanu Rabbanan.
I'm sorry, where are we starting from?
6 lines from the bottom on Kuf Samich Ches Amid Beis. Tanu Rabbanan. Harishababa Amar. A person comes and says, Avad Shtori Chayvi. My shtar Chayv, I'm a milva, I lent somebody money, I lost my shtar, and there are no edim that he lost the shtar. There are no edim that he lost the shtar. However, Afal Pisha Omru edim, he goes and contacts the people that had witnessed his transaction. Anu Kasavnu, we signed it. The Chasabnu, and we wrote it, we signed it, and we gave it to the loiva. In other words, there's no question that the shtar was written and it wasn't used. It was used. Nonetheless, in kaisun loyas shtar, you don't write another shtar. Why? Because obviously you could use it again. You're not going to give a guy 2 shtaros that he possibly could use. However, b'medava mamurim, when do we say that? Is b'shtare halva. That's only about a shtar halva. Avol shtori mekoch memkar, a shtar that you bought, you sold and you bought, kaisvin, you would write the shtar, chutz min hachraya sheboy. Now, what a shtar serves a twofold purpose. One, it's a proof, it's a deed, it's a proof that you own the property. Secondly, if some way, somehow the property that you brought is taken away, there was a previous lien on that property. Now the shtar gives you a right to go back to the meicher and collect, right? Let's say you go back and collect from the meicher, from the kuchais, or from wherever. It creates a shiba that you can collect from. So this shtar does 2 things. One, it's a raya, and 2, it has a koyach hagaviyah, as we say in the yeshiva. You're only writing it, and in the shtar, we're going to see the lashon that it's a raya that you had this property, you bought this property. You don't have however, the achrayas, that if the property is taken away from you, you can collect from somebody else, that you don't write. That you don't write, okay? Guys, you're here. There's 2 nekudas, and there, you're not writing. And that's the thrust of tonight's Amid Aleph. The difficult part of the shir is this achrayas part, okay? Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer, Af shtar mekach umemkar ein kaisvin. Even a shtar mekach umemkar, you will not write. Even a shtar mekach umemkar, you will not write for a proof. In other words, we're worried that maybe it's not your land anymore. Why? Because if someone gives a matana to his friend, he gave him a matana with a shtar, and he returned the shtar, then it comes back. The matana comes back. Meaning, usually when you give a present to somebody or anything to somebody, they now own that. Whatever you gave them, they own. In order to revert back to you, they'd have to give it back to you with a kinyan. They'd have to sell it back to you. Again, transfer of ownership, as we know by now, is done through what we call a kinyan. You give a matana to somebody, it's his, and you gave it bishtar. Now, in order now for you to get it back, ostensibly, you would need another kinyan, right? A new shtar, right? Chazaka, whatever, depending on if it's karka, you need a new kinyan. Says Rav Shimon Gamliel, you don't need a new kinyan. We're going to see this on tomorrow's daf. The act of giving back the shtar is enough of a kinyan. Memela, if that's the case, by mekach umemkar, we're scared that just like a matana, if you return the shtar, it goes back to you. Hu adin, by a sale, if the lekeach would go ahead and give the shtar back to the meicher, then what? Then it's no longer the lekeach. So lekeach can't. We won't even write the shtar as a proof for the lekeach because there's no proof. It may not be his. Maybe he gave the shtar back to the meicher, and therefore what? It's no longer his. So not only won't you write for achrayas, but even as a proof that it's yours, we won't write it. Okay, that's really tomorrow's share, more than tomorrow's share. The focus of the share is going to be the shita of the Chachamim, in Rabbi, why by a shtar mechira don't you write achrayas? After all, if we believe this guy that he lost the shtar, why don't we give him back a full-fledged shtar? What are we worried about? What's our concern? We have over here a shtar. He said he lost it. We have Adam said it was, Mekach Memker. L'chara, you're not worried about him using the shtar again in the Havamina. You worry about not using the shtar again. If you're not worried about using the shtar again, so why don't you write him a full-fledged shtar? One that's a proof and one that he can go ahead and collect if it's taken away from him. So that's we're going to focus on that. Penny were Mazel Tov again, and Kuf Samech Tes. Penny had a grandson today. Shmuel Dov Ber, is that the case name?
Shmuel Dov Ber.
And Azariah Zelig.
Ben Israel Zelig.
Okay. Shem Shenechtes the Bis. Can you connect the Torah, the Chuppah, the Meissen Torah?
Amen. Thank you.
Now, also there's a Friday night. There's a Shalom Zachar. Rami Branca was his youngest daughter. Got married last year. Baruch Hashem, we at the wedding, and had a child, a boy. So Shalom Zachar in his house. He's going to send out an invitation. Okay, fellas. So now the Chachamim say matnasa kayemes. It's a good matana. Why? Because you're going to have to. Giving back the shtar is not going to help. Now, Amar, going back over the Brisa, you're going to write by Mekuch Memka, you will write a shtar, but in the shtar, you're going to leave out the fact, Chutz Me'achrayas Sheboy. My timer, what are you worried about? Rav Safra, L'fishein Koisvin Shtei Shoris Al Soda Achas. You don't write two shtaris on one field. Okay, now, why not? I can read for you the words of the Gemara, guys, and you'll be lost in the sauce. Follow along with Uncle Rabbi Stern. Good? I'm going to give you a bunch of steps. You ready? Step number 1. Ruvain is the Meicher. He sells the field to Shimon. Ruvain also borrowed money from Levi. Good? So Ruvain is both a Meicher and a Leiva. Now, Levi now goes to Ruvain. Ruvain can't pay up. Shimon obviously bought the field, and there was a lien on the field. So now Levi the Balchov, who happens to be the Milva of Ruvain, he takes the land back from Shimon. So far, so good? Classic case of Shibudim. He takes the field back from Shimon. Now, Shimon takes the shtar. Shimon has a shtar, right? And takes the shtar. He goes back and he goes to Lukuchos that bought the fields after him from Ruvain. Good? In other words, he's Shimon has achrayas. So he lost it to Levi, but now there were other like him, other people. And Ruvain, in other words, let's say there's two properties with two liens on it. One was taken away by Levi. Shimon now is going to get the field that was in Ruvain's possession the time when he bought the field. So Shimon now, he takes the shtar, and he's going to collect from the fields that were bought after him from Ruvain, because there was achrayas on that. So far, so good. Now, Shimon tells Levi. Now, Levi took away the first field. So Shimon tells Levi the following. Let me stay on this field. It's your field, you own it. I'll stay on the field, the Rashbam says 4 or 5 years, right? 4 or 5 years. And you know what's going to happen? People will think it's mine. Good. So the field number 1 that Levi collected from Shimon says, let me stay on the field, right? I already used my shtar once to collect. So now, Levi comes and collects it a second time. So Levi now will come, he'll collect the field a second time. That's the kanunya they did, right? He collected it once. He's staying on it for 4 or 5 years. People will think it's Shimon's field, and there was a lien on it. And Levi is now coming and collecting the second time. Good. Says Shimon, now I'll take out the shtar, and I'll collect from other lekuches of Ruvain, and we'll split it. So we're not going to write a shtar with achrayas because maybe he'll use it twice. Maybe he'll use it over here once, to take the fields back from the luchukas and then he'll use it a second time. That's what we're worried about. The Gemara is going to ask, why do you have to have Ruve? Why do you have to have this whole thing in between? Why do you need Shimon making this thing with Levi, staying on the land? Even if you take out steps 4 and 5, you still have a problem. You still have Shimon takes the star out once, and then you have Shimon take the star out. In other words, you have Shimon in 3 and Shimon in 6. Why do I need steps 4 and 5? The Gemara is going to ask that, guys. Why do you need steps 4 and 5? Okay, so let's see what we got. I'm going to leave this open. I'm going to leave it open because, okay, so let's see. Says the Gemara. Now, this is why you can't have 2 achrayas, why you can't have achrayas by mekach umemka. What are you worried about? You can't have a mekach. What are you worried about? My time. Amrav Safel. Vishen kaisen shtei shtaros also the achas. Till ma'azl bal chayv. Levi is going to come along. Tarif leilahai. He's going to take the field away from Shimon. The azal hai. Shimon will go. Umafik chad for tarif l'chuchas. And he's going to go ahead and take the star and collect from another field that Reuven had sold, a second field. The amal leila bal chayv. Shimon now, guys, we're up to step number 4. Shimon now will go ahead. He'll tell Levi, Shufli, be quiet, like shh, be quiet. The Eikim Ba, right, that I'll stay on your land. Rashbam says for 4 or 5 years. V'hoda ta tirfan. I'll then go ahead. You'll come and you'll rip it away from me. The one that's really yours, you'll rip it away again. Umafik achrina, and I'll take out the star again. V'hoda azal tarf l'kuchais achrina. And I'll go ahead and I'll take it and use it a second time. Did that work, guys? Did that work? With the words, did that work? No one's talking to me. Should we go over this again or you're good? One more time. What's happening is he's going to use the star twice. Now, simply, you should say, why didn't you write 2 stars with achrayas? He'll rip it away once, take out another star, and rip it away a second time. The Gemara will ask that in a second. In between these 2 steps, we have a kanunya going on. In between these 2 steps, right? What's the kanunya? Okay, let's see it. What's the kanunya? What's the kanunya is the trickery, the forgery. What's going on over here? Levi takes away the field, that's no problem. Levi is a Baal Chayv to Reuven, he's Reuven's Baal Chayv, he takes away the field from Shimon. Now, Shimon takes the star and he uses it. He uses the star to collect from a Lakeach. That's no problem. Up until there, everything is great. Here's where it gets tricky. Shimon tells Levi, listen, you took away you had first dibs on the field. When I bought it, there was a lien on it, there was a coil, I should have avoided it. I didn't. It's rightfully yours. Let me stay there. After 4 or 5 years, people will forget that it's yours and they'll think it's mine, right? Now, then you'll come and collect it a second time. Really, it's yours already. You're going to collect it a second time, correct? Good. Then I'll take the star out a second time and I'll collect from other lukuchas of Ruvain and we'll split it. And that's why you don't write achrayas in 2 stars. And the Gemara is going to ask, why do you need steps 4 and 5? Okay, and it's going to ask other questions as well. Back inside the Gemara. Okay, so now that's the case. Fred the Gemara Kasha. The kivon de karana l'shtara de milva b'may hada tarifla. Over here, Levi's coming to collect the second time. He doesn't have a star anymore. You know why? It was torn up in step number 2. As soon as he goes over here and he collects the milva and he's collecting, what do? We rip it up. Levi collects from Reuven. He's collecting the field from Shimon, correct? As soon as he does that, we rip up his star. What gives Levi then the raya over here to come and collect from Shimon a second time? He doesn't have a star. So why are we worried about this? Innately, there's something we don't have to worry about. It was torn up already, the star. It was torn up in step number 2. As soon as Levi took the field from Shimon, we ripped up the star. So how in the world, in step number 5, can Levi come and collect it a second time? And for the Gemara, the Chitema, the like Karana, you're going to say they didn't rip it up. V'amar Rav Nachman, Kol Tirfa, the like Sivbe, Karana l'shtara demova. Now, there's a pecking order over here, fellas. There's a pecking order over here. of shtaris. I'll give it to you. There's a shtar halva. There's the shtar of the halva, where there's the loan. Then, when the loan is paid up, you rip up that shtar. Then, if you default on the loan, you're going to write what's called a shtar tirfa. A shtar tirfa means that you're going to check the property to see, since he foreclosed on you and didn't have money, let's see what he has. Then when you find out what he has, you're going to write a shtar adrachta, and that means you can collect that you found. And finally, you're going to write a shtar shuma to evaluate how much of the loan did the property that the adrachta you took from. Now, each step along the way, you have to rip it up. That's the Gemara's point. So l'chayra, you zicha ripped up the halva. So Levi will never have a second chance to collect from Shimon because you ripped it up the first time. You ripped it up the first time. So let's see inside. The chitema, you're going to say, the like Karana, you didn't rip it up the first time. It's not true. From Rav Nachman, kol tirfa the like sivbei karayna l'shtar de milva lav tirfu. Any shtar that allows me to go check out a property, right? That doesn't say we ripped up the shtar of the loiva is not a good shtar. So therefore, it was ripped up. And any adrachta that's not written that drachta means to actually collect. Right? And this is based upon Rashbam. The shuma is how much it was worth that you went ahead in the adrachta that you collected from. Lav shumahu. So l'chayra, you got a problem, guys. Good. What's that problem? How could he use it twice? Like tzricha dekasi mikayach avasei. He can't mikayach the father. Okay, fellas. Notice I didn't say anything on the side. So our havamina was in the Gemara that Ruvain is a loiva and Levi is a malva. It's not true. Levi is not a malva. Levi is coming to Ruvain because he claims that Ruvain stole it from his father. So there never was a shtar. In other words, once, if a person stole a field and sold it, you could take it away. Levi has proof that what? That this field belonged to who? His father. So Ruvain's a guy, instead of Leiva, put in Ganav, guys. Instead of Leiva, put in Ganav, and he's the Nignav. Or the Goslin is the Nigzal. Good? So Memela, what do you gain with that, fellas? Guys, what do you gain? There was no shtar. Since there was no shtar, you're worried about what? He'll take out, you're worried that he'll make a kanunya. He'll say, you know what? He'll say that you let me stay on the land 4 or 5 years, and then I'll take out a shtar. So I'll take out the shtar gavia. So therefore, you have to worry that Levi possibly can let him stay on the land, and he can go ahead and collect the second time because he's not coming mikoyach the chayiv, he's coming mikoyach the father. So he takes Ruvain steals the land, he sells it to Shimon. Comes along Levi and says, my father's land. Shimon gives it back to him. Shimon goes ahead and he goes to Ruvain. He has a shtar. He collects from him. Great. Perfect. Now, what are we worried about? Shimon's going to tell Levi, listen, you stay on this land. The land that was your father's land. Let me stay on it. Let me stay on it. I'll stay on it. And you know what? After a few years, people will think I own it. Good. Then after that, when they think I own it, come and then say, oh, you're my father's land. Take it back. Then I'll go ahead, take the second shtar, right, and collect the second time, and that's the kanunya. Okay. The only thing we did over here was we got rid of the shtar of the malva, right? That's what we did. So very geshmak. Says the Gemara. Amalei Rav Achim Dif Ravina. V'lamlei lemei malei lebalchoiv shufli b'hai ara be'ekimba. Typically, the kimid in the kite shtari. If he's holding on to 2 shtaris, tarif v'had tarif, fellas. If you get rid of steps 4 and 5, you still have the same problem. Did he use the shtar once over? Did he use it over here? Did he collect once over here? Yeah. Did he collect once over here? Yeah. So therefore, if he collects over here in number 3 and he collects over here in number 6, right? Why do you need steps 4 and 5? Why do you have to make this? I know, because you want to make a hard Gemara for Daf Yomi, right? Forget that. Again, you understand. he's going to use the star here to collect. He's going to use the star here to collect. If your whole purpose that you don't write achrayus is that he's going to use it twice, so forget steps 4 and 5. Right? Guys, are you with me? I'm talking a lot. You know what's going on? Yeah, I think the steps in front of you are good. It's right in front of you. I'm trying to convince myself, right? It's right in front of you. There it is. Okay, David, you have a question?
Yeah, you have Reuben and Shimon. So Shimon is taking the field. Shimon is collecting a field.
Yes.
Which field? But then you're telling me he's staying on Levi's field.
What? No, yeah. Shimon, there's two things. There's the field that Levi got because it was his father's field. And then Reuven has to make it up to Shimon. Shimon bought this field from the stolen field from Reuven Bachrayas, David. So now, he has a lien on any property that Reuven had. So he's collecting that field. In other words, there's different fields over here. There's the field that was rightfully Levi's all along, and then there's Shimon collecting because Reuven owes him. So what's Shimon saying? Levi, do me a favor. I got a great idea. Let me stay on your field. People eventually think it's my field, and then I'll collect the second time from Reuven's Lakeach.
So he's collecting the first time, and then he's making
Shimon's not collecting it. Shimon, Levi is collecting the field back from Shimon. That's rightfully his, right?
Correct.
Good. Now,
But what about Shimon?
Shimon now goes to Loikeach from Reuven and collects the field.
But he's not living on it.
It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. He has Reuven's made up his chiyuv to both Levi and Shimon. Good. Now, what does Shimon say to Levi? Levi, listen, I got a great idea. I have another star that'll allow me to collect from Lekuchas again. Let me stay on your field. You'll come a second time and say you're on my father's field. It's taken away from me. Now I have a star saying I have a right to collect. I'll collect the second time.
Because he had to switch 2 stars.
Yes.
Yeah,
And that's why we don't write achrayus in the stars.
Okay, in the Havamina, can I ask you back on the Havamina or?
I'm listening.
Okay, you did the same shtick. Shimon Levi's coming to Shimon. Why is he coming to Shimon if there's people after Shimon who bought fields from Reuven?
Levi's coming to Shimon because he's the loiva. He was the one who borrowed money from Reuven. So therefore, he has a lien on all the property.
So Shimon
only bought the property after the loan.
Right, but Shimon Kanina, I left you other properties to collect from. That he sold it.
Again, there's a lien on all the properties. No, it's not speaking. There was no bnei chayrin. It's not speaking. There's bnei chayrin. It's no bnei chayrin. Okay. So the Gemara says geshmak. So Fred the Gemara kasha. Why do I need steps? Why do I need all this harama? I can make it very quickly. Let him use the star twice. On that, the Gemara answers in Cain nefishi aleha balei dinim. Let's say you don't wait 4 or 5 years. So what happens? Shimon uses the star once, and now he goes back to Reuven and says, Reuven, you know what? Levi took the field away from me. So he goes, well, you have a star, go use it. He goes and uses the star. A week later, 2 weeks later, he goes ahead and Wadi uses the star again. Comes back to Bezdin, and Bezdin's going to say, you're here again? And a coal goes out, is that 1 second. Isn't that very strange? Shimon is collecting from Reuven's fields 2 lekuchas twice, and therefore, says the Rashbam, his ruse will be found out. In other words, you're right. It's dava pasha that you could use it, but it was speaking in a situation where he would try to go ahead and avoid litigation in such a short period of time where he's apt to be found out, and therefore you put in those 2 steps to make it more palatable. That's what Rashbam said. 4 or 5 years has nothing to do with chazaka, guys. It's not that's chazaka. It's no dini chazaka over here. You're living on somebody else's field that he took it away from you. It's Levi's field. Okay, so therefore you don't have the option of a straightforward using it twice. You needed what? The case of what of the harama of the ruse of telling Levi to let you stay on the field. Okay, says the Gemara the following. Now, l'chayra, who's that? Shimon is being messed up over here. Shimon actually bought the field, and you're telling me he's losing the right to collect. His first star, he had a right to collect. The second one, just because he lost it and ate and testified and everything, that they signed it and everything, he's losing a right. So I have a better idea. Okay, what's the better idea? Let's write to Shimon a full-fledged star mechira that A is a raya, and B, you could collect. In other words, we're not going to give him an inferior star. He'll have full star power. The lichtiv tavra, you'll write a receipt, a shayver, to the meicher, the one on the first, the meicher on the first star. You'll write a shayver, and it's going to say kol shtori diyefuk al ara da psulin levarmin defik bismanda. In other words, you're going to write a star to the milva. It's not really a milva over here. It's the first person's land, and it's going to say the only thing it can be used is once. It can be only used once, and therefore you're writing a full star, and you have nothing to worry about. And it's only be used from the new zman, the zman you're putting in now. So I'm Rabbana Kamei Rav Papa, then we like Kamei Rav Ashi. So I say, Maris, what do you see from over here? This Gemara, Shein Kais and Shayver. You don't write a shayver, guys. If you write a shayver, we're going to see about machloikas whether you write a shayver or not, because a shayver is your receipt. If you lose it, you have tzaris. So we're going to see Be'ez Hashem. So it must be. You know why we didn't give? You know why we don't go ahead and write a full-fledged star to allow a person to collect and write a shayver that what you can only collect once. The reason we do it is because we don't write shayver. This must be. So I say, Maris, that you don't write a shayver, and therefore you didn't have this eitzah. And since you didn't have this eitzah, you're not going to write the koyach of gevia in the second star only as a raya, proof that it's in his possession. Amid base. So Amalahu. So Rav Ashi says you have no raya. Rav Ashi said the Rabbanan. Ba'alma, I could say kaisin shayver. I could say generally you could write a shayver. But hacha haina taima over here, you know the reason we won't write a shayver? The dilma azal bal chayv, Levi's going to come along. The tarif minei delay keach, he'll take from Shimon. Now over here, it doesn't mean bal chayv is lav dafka bal chayv, guys. It means like Levi's going to take back his father's field. Remember, we have to get rid of the bal chayv because you don't have a star. Remember that step number, you don't have a star, and that's step number 2. We got rid of that because then you rip up the star and you won't be able to collect the second time. So it's speaking where, so it's lav dafka bal chayv. It's speaking where came along Levi, took the field away from Shimon, because it was his father's field, and now Shimon went, the tarif lekuchos, and he took away from the lekuchos of Ruvain. He took away from Ruvain's lekuchos, again, the ones that there was a shibud on. The shoiver gabi lekuchos leka. Now, the shoiver is not by lekuchos. It's not in the hands of lekuchos. It's in the hands of what? Of the, right? And they're going to give him karka. They're going to pay up. Right? They're going to pay up. So, in other words, the shoiver is helpful. We have the shoiver and say, listen, he can't collect because it's collected in full. But Lakeach doesn't have the shoiver. It's not in the hands of lekuchos. It's in the hands of Ruvain, who gave the field. It's not in the hands of whoever Ruvain's lekuchos were. They don't have it. It says seif lekuchos lav amri da'ara hatre, right? And the bottom line is lekuchos are going to come back to Ruvain and say to him, right? And Ruvain will show him the star, and therefore what? They'll get back their karka. So what are you worried about? In other words, the shayver should work, but so it must be you don't write a shayver. Says Rav Ashi, no, you do write a. You do write a shayver, but in this case, you don't write the shayver because it's not in the hands of the person you want it to be in. Says the Gemara. The bottom line is, it will eventually be there because they're going to come back to him. Because again, Ruvain's going to have to pay the lekuchos. He's going to have to pay the piper somewhere along the line. Says the Gemara, you're right. Eventually, but you know what? And this period of time, it's going to be extended. During that period of time, they'll eat up the crops, they'll eat up the payers, they'll gain. Inami or else, it must be speaking that where Leikeach shalei b'achrayis. Leikeach bought the field, unfortunately, without achrayis, and therefore he won't be able to go back to Ruvain, and therefore you don't write a shayver. Ihachi fek demar shtari halva nami. Right? Why do we say that you do write a shayver by shtari halva? Why aren't you worried about the same thing? That what they're going to go ahead and eat up the property? Says the zuzei masik. Over there, by the halva, he was owed money, and if a person they're going to go collect from a lokeach, lokeach's not going to give him karka. He's going to go ahead and give it. He's going to go ahead and go back to him and say, "There's money." When you have a loan of money, you expect to get money back. When there's a shtar mekoch umemkar of land, you expect to get land back. So over there, if you're telling me that by a shaver it's in the hands of the wrong person and you're worried about it being used up in that period of time, why by a halva are we not worried? And that we do write a shaver. And the answer is because the lekeach is not going to give up his karka. You're going to come to lekeach and say, listen, Ruvain went ahead and Ruvain owes me money. There was a lien on his property, right? And it was taken away, and now is taken away. You're going to come to lekeach, and lekeach is not going to give you karka. He's going to say that, you know what, you gave him money, I'll give you back money. So in other words, he's not going to go ahead and give him karka. So therefore, Amri paisi balchoy b'suzei. I'll go ahead and I'll be mefayis the balcho with money, but hocha by the shtar mekoch memka, since the land, the choyf was in karka, made the yoda the my demasik ara b'suzei lemefayis. He knows that what the lekuchis that are chayiv karka, they're not going to go ahead and be appeased by getting what? By getting zuzim. And therefore, the moicher, right? And therefore, the moicher, if he's going to pay them, if he's going to pay, he's not going to pay them money. And therefore, you're worried about the karka being in their possession for an extended period of time before they go back to the moicher, and during that time, they'll eat up the payers. So the bottom line is we have a case of the following, just to reiterate. We said that by a halva, you're never going to write a second shtar halva, you're worried he's going to use it twice. By mekoch umemka, we have a machloikis between mekoch umemka, which the Brisa said, you will write it, you will, according to Chachamim, you'll write it and give it as a proof, but it won't have the koyach of geviyah. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said you don't even write it at all. Good? We'll see Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel tomorrow. In the shittas of the Chachamim, why don't you give him the koyach of geviyah? Because Rav Stafro, you can't have two in your rishus. Why can't you have two in your rishus? Because you use it twice. How can we use it twice? You get the malva of the first, after the first geviyah, the malva is going to rip it up. Says Gemara, it's not speaking by halva, it's speaking about where the father. It's speaking about where the father that was stolen from a father, and therefore there's no shtar, and therefore you could use it twice. How will he use it twice? He's going to go ahead, and when he takes it, when the first person, Levi, in this case, takes it away from Shimon, Shimon's going to tell Levi, stay on the field. Let me stay on the field. It's your field. Let me stay on it. People will forget that it's your field. All right. And I already used the shtar once to get lekuchis. I'll use it a second time, and from the lekuchis to the second time, we'll split it together. The Gemara says, why do you have to give this case? After all, you could have said simply he used it twice. Why do we have to go ahead and get Levi involved over here with a haram, with a kanunya? It says because if we used it twice, it's more apt that you'll have bali dinim they'll find out exactly what he's up to. The Gemara says, why don't you write a shaver? Says the Gemara must be speaking where you don't write a shaver. Rav Ashi says that what? No, it could be you do write a shaver, but over here by mekoch umemka, where you're going to go ahead, where by mekoch umemka, where eventually you're going to come back to the. Eventually, it's the shaver is going to be in the hands of the wrong people. It's going to be in the hands of the lekeach. It's not going to be in the hands of the meicher. It's going to be in the hands of the meicher, not the lekeach. The Gemara then asks, so. Obviously, in the end, they're going to come back to the meicher eventually, and he'll find out he has a shaver. Because by that time, when it comes back, the shaver, and you're going to go ahead and have to give back the whole property, they will have used the property. Okay, that's what we said. So if you didn't listen to a word until now, you're not going to understand the word I said now anyway. Okay. Says the Gemara Vaita. Amamar, going back over the Brisa again. We said that the shtar mekoch umemka, you'll write for what? For the deed, for that. But except for what? For achrayas. You won't give him the ability to collect. Now, the question is, what's the lashon of the shtar? Hechi kasvinan. What's the lashon of the shtar? It says, Gemara Amar of Nachman, the kasvei hachi. Shtar dinon, this shtar, the loy lemigvei bay, you can't collect from it, loy mishtabdi v'loy b'nei chayri, from neither mishmuadim or b'nei chayrin, elke hechi to take him ara b'yadei the lekeach. The reason it's written is to keep it established in what? In the hands of the lekeach. That's the lashon. So it's only for the purpose of a deed, of a title, not for the purpose what of geviyah. Amar Afram, Zoyse Meres. Now, when you have to write this, guys, if you don't write it, guys, what's the inference over here? The reason why there's no achrayas is because you wrote there's no achrayas. let's say you didn't write anything at all. So we have a famous machlokes whether achrayus is toyis sefer or not. If you're going to go ahead and purchase something, you need title insurance, right? If you go ahead, you buy a house, you're going to check out that the house was owned by the person who sold it to you. Good. So if you go ahead and buy something, a field, a house, whatever, right? Why would you go ahead and put your money if you can't get your money back? Where's your insurance? Achrayus, where's your insurance? It says, we see from this Gemara that even if it's not written in, it's automatically there. How do you see? Because you had to write a star that you can't use it. When you had to write in the star that you can't use it, it must be the status quo is that you could, without writing anything. So it says Rafram, says Rafram Zoyse Meretz. What do you see from here? Zoyse Meretz, that what? That the Achrayus is Toseifahu. Time of the cost of Lehachi. The reason that what you can't collect is because you wrote you can't collect from Mishubad and Wabnei Chayrin. If you didn't write anything about Achrayus, Gavi, you would collect. So l'chayr, you have a raya that if he doesn't write it, in fact what is Toseifa. Ravashi is of the opinion Achrayus lav Toseifa. Achrayus is not. In other words, in order to collect from the lien, you'd have to write it in. I over here. Why are you? What's pshat? So over here, the kosavle. So what's pshat over here? If Rashi says that what it's aret lavs toseifahu, and therefore if you don't write it, you won't be able to collect. Umay chutz me'achrayus shaboy. What does it mean when Rav Nachman said you write openly? Chutz me'achrayus like sivbei achrayus. In other words, umay chutz me'achrayus shaboy, right? What's pshat over here? Let's see the first wide line. The loy ksiv be'achrayus. Rav Nachman loy kometaret shop here. So what Rav Nachman? So it's speaking where you didn't write it. No, it's really you have to write it, and it's speaking where you didn't write it. Rav Nachman, the cost of beishtora dinon the loy ligmi bei loy mishtabdi loy minechayrin, and you didn't write chutz. You didn't write the lashon of achrayus there. So in other words, einachinami is missing words. Says Rav Ashi that it should have said that what? It should have said my chutz me'achrayus shaboy. Right? It says like sivbei. He didn't write it openly, but he should have. Hayisasa, there was this woman. The yavle zuze lahu gavra. She gave money to a person, a shliach to buy. Lemizvei layar to buy a piece of land. Azal zavan le'shlei b'achrayus. The guy bought the piece of land, but he didn't go ahead and he wrote a shlei b'achrayus. So if this woman loses the land, it's lost. Asla Kamei, the Sisha came in front of Rav Nachman. Amalei, Rav Nachman told the Shliach, he said, that Kune Shadartich, the Loyla Vuse. She sent you for his good, not for the bad. Therefore, you know what you have to do? Zil Zavna Mine, you go ahead and buy the land from her, Shaloi Bachrayas, for Hoda Zavnin LA, and then you'll return and you'll sell it to her be'achrayas. Says the Rashba, Eitz Toibin Asanla in Matzli Pata Mimena. If he, the Shliach, wants to get off the hook to be Pata from Hataina, this was the advice that Rav Nachman was giving. Shem lo yeretz salasis kain harikim sheton is batla shlichus v'tzarch la'aslamas. In other words, when if he doesn't do this, then the shlichus, there's no shlichus. Guys, you were sent to do A. You didn't do A. She sent you to buy a field with a charayas. You just bought a field. You didn't do the shlichus. So really, it should be batal. Elama, an eitz toiva that everything should be up and up, and she has no kindness in you in anything, is you go ahead, buy it back from her, and then sell, she'll sell it to you, and then you'll buy it back from her back rayas. And therefore what? You won't have that problem.